afternoon and good evening, and welcome to Stories After 8 on BTC-TV, Channel 13. I'm your host. My name is Ben Woostenberg, and this is Scribbler, a Portal to Fiction. That's a long introduction. I'm going to have to whittle that down somehow. Anyways, I've been working this morning on my other project, The Celebrity Diner, which is going to be videos and stuff. But that is going to be behind the paywall. And it's going to be a travelogue of Vancouver, visiting the different restaurants and, the Michelin star ones that we have here to begin with. And things like that, looking at the sights and enjoying our time, like Granville Island and the markets there and things like that. If I can get that diva out of the trailer. Anyways, I got her to do another video. We made a gnocchi and short ribs, and it was amazing. And I'm going to be putting it out next weekend on the 1st. That's a Saturday. I think that's a good time to present it. And we'll see what happens. It, whether you want to watch it or not is up to you. It's like, you still have to, upgrade. But that's okay, because I have 39 people that are watching, or will be watching, and those people, at least 7 or 8 or 9 of them are actually friends, and my brother. Well, he's a friend too. They're friends, and so they'll be more than happy to be watching her. And they're paid too, so that's cool. Everything is great. Anyways, I'm going to start reading to you from my novella, Cinderella and Her Sisters. This is part 5, I think, something like that. I really should pay attention. Anyways, it's going to start right now, and I'm going to read it in 3, 2, 1, and go. The afternoon sky is a clear, crisp blue with tiny, wispy clouds holding onto the edge of the horizon with the determination of a drowning man reaching for a lifeboat. Baltazi watches the tall poplars and birch trees dancing in the wind, refusing to bend until at last they acquiesce, bowing their leafy crowns like defeated warriors before a king. He wonders if he's the only one who sees them like that way. He looks at the girls behind him. Anastasia is sitting between the girls, trying to read her book, or perhaps she's just pretending. Annette and Colette are staring out at the passing scenery, just as he's trying to, and he decides no one sees things the way he does, because they haven't lost anything in their lives. Not yet, at least, he tells himself. And is that how he looks at the future, he wonders, at their futures? Is everything an inherent loss because of the losses he's endured? Or is the word suffered? He watches the willows brushing at the sky with their leafy tendrils, the dry grass swaying and rippling under the wind's gentle touch, and the flowers looking like an artist's palette of colors, even as the automobile kicks up dust swirls and eddies until it looks like there's a distant mist playing on the horizon behind them. They've been on the road since the early dawn, and the Countess is driving. The morning mist having given way to the afternoon heat, Baltazi is seated beside the Countess, looking nervous and uncomfortable. He feels more comfortable when Johann is driving, he tells himself, instead of seated beside him. His fist is clenched, and it looks like he's almost standing on one leg, as if he's readying to launch himself out of the seat at the first sign of danger. He's dressed warmly for the early spring weather, with goggles the Countess has told him to wear, but now he's too hot. He's wearing a Homburg as well, and a scarf tucked into an overcoat with a fur collar. His mutton-chop whiskers and thick handlebar mustache are pushed up into his face, and he tries to brush hair away from his goggles with his other hand. The Countess is wearing a long coat, a wide-brimmed hat tied down with a silk scarf, and doe-skin riding gloves. She's laughing with delight. "You really must learn to relax, Papa," she says with a smile. "Must you drive so fast, then? If I drive any slower, you'll feel more of the bumps. Won't he, Johann?" she says, leaning forward to look at Johann. "Yes, Countess, but if you slow down as you approach the corners, we won't slide as much," the chauffeur suggests. "And where's the fun in that, right, girls?" Their luggage is being brought out by Hans, the gardener, who's following in the house wagon, a 1903 Ford, because there's not enough room in the Napier for all the trunks and suitcases. For a moment, Baltazzi thinks it would have been easier on his nerves as he'd followed behind with the luggage. You see, even Johann says you should slow down, Baltazzi says quickly. Yes, Papa, the Countess replies with a smile and pats his thigh gently. Baltazzi lightly places her hand back on the steering wheel. The Countess laughs again as she reaches out for the gear shift, and the automobile picks up speed again. Oh, Papa, imagine what it'd be like if we were to go up in one of those flying machines. A flying machine? An aeroplane, she says. I know what a flying machine is, Baltazzi says quickly, and I absolutely forbid you to go up in one. Forbid me? Of course. Man's not meant to fly, he adds thoughtfully, and the Countess laughs. Of course he isn't. But did anyone say anything about a woman flying? That's a ridiculous idea. I heard those two Americans, the brothers, were in Paris last month, and they flew for more than an hour. Yes, well, I read they've crashed once or twice and that one of their passengers was killed. I can accept you're learning to drive, but I have to draw the line at the idea of flying. Oh, Papa, I never said I was going to learn to fly. I said I'd like to try it. I'd like to see what it's like to be in an aeroplane. That doesn't mean we're going to buy one and fly everywhere instead of using the automobile. I mean, what about poor Johann? What would we do with him then? We'd have to teach him to fly as well so he could take you places. I don't like it when you tease me like that, Baltazzi says, and turns his head to look out of the passing Hungarian steppes. Papa, you're going to have to join us in the 20th century sooner or later, Anastasia says with a laugh, not lifting her eyes from her book. I'm in the 20th century, Baltazzi says. Are you? And where's your sense of adventure, she asks. I've had enough adventure to last me a lifetime, thank you very much. Really, Papa? You don't do anything except tend to those silly horses, Anastasia said, putting her book on her lap and smiling her best smile. Silly horses? Is that what you think of them? You never thought like that when you were a little girl learning to ride. They're beautiful animals. They have a lot more soul than some people I've known. In fact, right now I'm thinking they've got a lot more soul than you pretend to have. But we don't use the coach anymore. We don't? And what about your things? I should get rid of my horses now, because now that we have an automobile, well, they're a redundancy, aren't they? Like last year's fashions, I might add. I just don't see how they're worth the trouble of looking after them if they're not any particular practical use anymore. Practical use? They're horses. How can a horse be of any practical use to anyone? You leave him alone, Colette says with a trace of sarcasm in her voice. Papa likes the old coach and four. He misses the old days. He loves his horses. As a matter of fact, I do, Baltazzi says to her. Of course you do, Papa, and we do too, she adds. But we live in a different age now. Stacy just doesn't know how to say it the right way. And I suppose you do? We liked the horses when we had to use them. We liked that it took us 3 days of travel instead of only 6 or 7 hours. We liked that we didn't have the time to do all the things we wanted to do, that it was hot, dusty, and smelly, or that we choked on that dust, Anastasia says without looking up from her book. Did I say that it was dusty, Papa? Colette smiles. All right, I think I understand, Baltazzi laughs. The automobile is faster, more convenient, and even more comfortable, I suppose. But I still miss the old days, he says with a determination as he shifts himself in the seat. He looks at the girls directly. I'm probably not the only one who still feels that way either. I don't know why you have to say I refuse to let myself become part of the 20th century. That's like saying I refuse to accept progress. Didn't I change all the gas lighting to proper electric lights last year? Didn't I buy a gramophone for you girls? And didn't we apply to have a telephone? That sounds like all the modern conveniences to me. The world's moving faster than we can keep up, the Countess says. But we're keeping up, Baltazzi says to no one in particular. He turns back in his seat and looks at the road in front of him. Ha! Get rid of the horses, he says suddenly, as if he's thinking about it to his great consternation. Does Lady Pritchard have horses, or do they have an automobile? Colette asks. Lady Pritchard? Not any more, Baltazzi says with a laugh. I don't believe she's the type of woman to have horses about if she doesn't have to. Besides, they live in the city. She has an old horse and buggy, the Countess says. And how many horses does she have? She doesn't have any, Baltazzi insists. Her husband, what's his name again? I keep forgetting it. How can you keep forgetting his name? We spent the summer with them, the Countess reminds him. His name is Randolph. Yes, Randolph. And why would I want to remember him? I don't even like the man, he says with a laugh. Anyway, he has a bicycle, one of those big-wheeled English contrivances. A penny farthing, Annette says brightly. Is that what they call them? Insane contraptions. He was telling me about it all this summer when we were in London. It was all he could do to contain himself. He said they didn't need the added expense of a horse and buggy now that he had a telephone. They just call a number and someone comes along and takes them wherever they want to go. Otherwise, he rides his bicycle. I'm surprised Julia never mentioned it to you, he says matter-of-factly to the Countess. We were discussing other things. Womanly things, he laughs. Fashion, although what she knows about fashion. Papa, must you be like that every time we go to see them? You know I don't care for them, and yet you insist we go there and visit them, and their insufferable children. Insufferable? You don't find them insufferable? Then how about intolerable? That's the same thing, Annette laughs. They're children. I don't think you should be discussing this in front of the girls, or Johann. You don't think Johann has his own opinions of our friends or their children, Baltazzi says with a laugh. Papa, enough, the Countess says sternly. I'm sorry, Baltazzi says and laughs again. You're right. She's your friend, and you've known her forever. You should have the right to visit her whenever you wish. You really must learn to keep your opinions to yourself. She tries to be stern, but she can't, and he sees a smile play across her thin lips as she shakes her head. I can tolerate him if I must, Baltazzi says, for your sake. Well, this time it will be different. Different? How's that? Her nephew will be there. He's a musician. A musician? Oh, wonderful. No, really, he's quite good from what I understand. He's been in Paris, but he's here for the Emperor's Jubilee. He'll be playing at a luncheon of some sort in the afternoon before the grand ball. A luncheon? All the crowned heads and dignitaries will be there. Julia? No, of course not. But I thought Randolph, Papa, Annette laughs. Randolph? I thought he was a big banker in town now. I mean, that's the way he made it sound when we were in London. You're doing it again, the Countess says, leveling a look at him. Am I? Well, then, this nephew, does he have a name? George. He's part of a famous quartet, but he's there under a serious cloud, she adds as a warning. A serious cloud. What's that supposed to mean? There was an indiscretion in Paris. An indiscretion? And what's that supposed to mean? Do you have to be so elliptical? There's a scandal. And I'm supposed to know what it is, or am I supposed to guess at what it is? The Countess shakes her head slowly. I should know, right? I should understand what you're trying to tell me. If you paid more attention to what I say to you, you'd know exactly what I'm saying. Oh, Papa, Anastasia laughs from behind him. Even I can see what Mummy's trying to tell you. Then maybe you'd like to enlighten me. It's obvious she doesn't want to say it in front of the children. The children, Colette says, laughing. What, now that you're engaged, you're better than we are? All grown up? Is that it? She's trying to tell you that there was a scandal. A woman, most likely. It was a woman, Annette says seriously. And how do you know that? Baltazzi asked, turning to look at the three of them. I read it in one of those French magazines. You can read French? I thought you were just looking at the pictures. Did you know they can read French? He asked the Countess. Of course I know. Like I said, if you paid more attention to things that go on around here, you would not be so shocked when I tell you things. So, we're going into her house with the full knowledge that the man staying with her is what? A womanizer? I wouldn't go as far as saying full knowledge, the Countess smiles. And so this man, what's his name? George. And that's exactly what I mean about not listening to me. I forgot his name. You only just told me. It's Baltazzi. You only just told me. Baltazzi sees Johann smiling out of the corner of his eye. I should have come out with Hans in the luggage, Baltazzi says, to no one in particular. Well, there you go. I'm sorry, I stumbled on the second to last line. I cannot believe it. But I'm not going to start all over again because, that was 15 minutes almost. I know it's a long time, but hey, that's all she wrote, or he wrote. Anyways, I'm going to call it a day. Friday. And I'm going to say ciao for now and arrivederci. And I will be contacting you next week at the same bat time and the same bat channel. That will be Stories After 8 on Sundays. Okay. Ciao for now and arrivederci.